for rule by the people, not rule for the special interests. Hillary Clinton-backed policies are responsible for the problems in the inner cities today, and a vote for her is a vote for another generation of poverty, high crime, and lost opportunities.
With only 83 days until the election, Trump is digging in on his combative style in hopes of turning around his slide in the polls.
I am who I am. It's me. You have to be you. If you start pivoting, you're not being honest with people.
So the bottom line here, we could see less of the scripted teleprompter-assisted Donald Trump and more of the combative candidate whose primaries in the. Let's bring in CNN contributor Ryan Liza, forgive me, Ryan, Washington correspondent for The New Yorker. Thanks so much for being with us once again. What do you make of the shakeup?
Well, I really think that Trump was all of a sudden a disciplined teleprompter candidate holds. And so there are two explanations for why you would push aside Manafort. One, as Court pointed out, he's mired in the middle of some pretty significant scandals related to his time working for a decade in Ukrainian politics. Those have been on the front page of the newspapers here, on and off for weeks, to be honest. And the most recent is a big blockbuster about whether he received cash payments from the pro-Putin party in Ukraine. All right, so you might think Trump sees that and says, all right, this guy is plagued by scandal, I need to push him aside. That's how most normal candidates would respond. Most of the reporting, though, suggests that what he didn't like about Manafort was that Manafort was trying to control him in essence, make him more disciplined, make him a little bit more of a general election candidate. And even those attempts, just from what we've seen publicly, have not exactly been a smashing success. Trump is on his way, if current polls hold, to lose in the biggest loss since the Democratic loss in 1984 when Ronald Reagan had his landslide victory.
So what is the impact likely to be? Can he turn it around?
I don't know. I mean, hiring the guy who runs Breitbart, I mean, for international viewers who don't know what Breitbart is, it is a niche right-wing website that caters to a tiny sliver of American politics, and is successful in doing that because you can make a lot of money by just amping up that tiny segment on the right. But it's a sort of fanboy website for Trump supporters. It's frankly a website that has gotten rather dabbled with some of the worst elements on the fringe right in the last year, has been accused of all sorts of articles with anti-Semitism and racism, to be honest. And you would not hire someone like that unless you were sort of doubling down on your core supporters, on that white, aggrieved, right-wing base that Trump has done very well with. You would not hire someone from Breitbart unless you wanted someone with more expertise in that segment of American politics. As everyone knows, there are no more voters there for Trump. He's got them locked in. The political problem Trump has is he needs to add voters. He needs to expand beyond that core. So I don't really see this as doing that.
At the same time, he's done something again. He stepped on not only his own message, the points his campaign wanted to make to voters this week, he stepped on what would have been a difficult time for Hillary Clinton, because this week we saw the unusual spectacle of the months-long Justice Department investigation into her emails that ended with the Justice Department deciding that there was no point trying to bring charges. Well, the FBI notes are now in Congress's hands.
Yep.
That would ordinarily be something that we would be talking a whole lot more about. What does it mean and what are the implications of it?
You're absolutely right. I mean, this is an explosive story. The fact that the Democratic nominee was investigated by the FBI, that there was some debate within the administration about whether charges should be brought. Eventually, obviously, they weren't. That is a big, explosive story, and it would have played into the hands of any sort of normal, generic Republican nominee who would have tried to race a referendum on Hillary Clinton. And that's the way to win this race if you're a Republican. That's the way to beat Hillary Clinton, is make it about her, make it about these scandals, and sort of prosecute a disciplined case against her. She has very high negatives. She is one of the more unpopular figures to be nominated by either party. Her great advantage is that her opponent is the most popular person, most unpopular person ever to be nominated by a party. And she is doing, without really trying, she is turning this into a referendum strictly on Donald Trump, who continues to dominate the news, and 9 out of 10 times not in a positive way. So you're right, Jonathan, if this were a normal year with a normal Republican candidate, a governor, a senator, I think that this would be a much, much closer race, and the vulnerabilities that Clinton has would be exploited. Trump can't seem to stay on a single line of attack or prosecute a case against her that speaks to voters that are on the fence about Hillary Clinton. Even when he does go after her, it's in a very exaggerated way that doesn't really, he'll say she should be thrown in jail rather than laying out a sort of rational case for what she did wrong on the email scandal.
Even with a new campaign team, that seems to be the issue to watch. Ryan Lizza, thanks so much for this.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Other stories on our radar right now: Libyan troops claiming success in retaking territory from ISIS in the city of Sirte. A military official tells CNN ISIS fighters have been driven out of one of 3 areas they controlled. The officer says Libyan forces are now advancing on ISIS positions in other areas of the city. Russia dismissing any suggestion that flying its bombers out of Iran violates a UN Security Council resolution. The Russian military says those warplanes conducted successful airstrikes against ISIS in Syria for a second day. Washington takes a dim view of Russia operating out of Iran and has voiced its concerns to Moscow.
When it seems so clearly to be against us.
Now, after the killings in New York, we only have anecdotal evidence, and maybe you have more evidence, more information, but is it getting to be more dangerous in this country for Arab Americans?
I certainly think that we're seeing an uptick in hate crimes and harassment against Arab Americans and Muslim Americans. Our civil rights report that we released last year showed an alarming number of harassment incidents and hate incidents that we track very closely here at CAIR Oklahoma. And I definitely think that we've seen kind of that increase in anti-Muslim and anti-Arab harassment and threats.
Now, obviously, the political campaign is raising tensions on a lot of different levels, but when the campaign is over, what's going to happen, do you think? Is this just the new normal for Arab Americans, that they're being treated increasingly like outcasts and often at threat to their own safety?
Well, we would certainly hope not. One of the missions of CAIR Oklahoma, just like other CAIR chapters, is educating non-Muslims on the reality of Muslims in America and kind of dispelling some of those stereotypes and those fears. And we've been very fortunate here to enjoy a great relationship with our interfaith organizations and social justice community partners. So for every hateful tweet we get, for every hate call, all those threats on social media, we get dozens of supportive messages, of friendly comments, of people calling to say, I appreciate what you're doing, and we think that we love our Muslim neighbors, we love our Arab American friends and colleagues. So I think that there's a sense that we really can be working for a positive change.
Wow. Veronica Leisure of CAIR Oklahoma, thanks so much for talking with us.
Absolutely.
You're watching Connect the World. Still to come, we'll meet a Kenyan athlete who learned his Olympic skills, get this, on YouTube. That story ahead.
Asia's cities are growing fast. The challenge, keeping up with the changes and preparing for what's next.
Innovation means adapting to the future.
From the rebirth of an aging overpass in Seoul to boosting the newest Japanese entrepreneurs and a digital replica of the entire city-state of Singapore, CNN shows you how the region is laying the groundwork for a livable future. Innovative Cities, Saturday on CNN.
Tea is very, very important in the part of the Japanese culture because the tea can connect the people. Japanese hospitality looks simple, but the way they create has its own meaning and own thoughts and own detail. That captured my heart.
Culinary Journeys, Thursday on CNN. Inside the world world of horse racing on CNN's Winning Post.
We're in Germany looking at the resurgence of the sport of kings at Berlin's historic Hoppegarten racecourse.
Winning Post on CNN.
She had a natural curiosity that motivated her move from the familiar and called her to see the world. Along the way, she began to tell stories, whether those stories were far from her roots or close at heart, whether they made her smile or tested her strength. Storytelling is what took her there and got her here. Newsstream with Christy Lou Stout, weeknights on CNN.
Located on Morocco's Atlantic coast, Essaouira is a port city that is fast becoming one of North Africa's most popular tourist destinations. Otman Sheikh is an interior designer with a passion for food. His business combines his two loves. 15 months ago, he opened a restaurant and filled it with his favorite objects. But running a business is not as simple as that. He says the biggest shock he faced came with the realization that he was in charge of other people.
I'm used to work alone. To work with other people, it was really hard. When I had the Chinese shop, I didn't have people work for me. I'm doing everything. So when you open and you have like 7 or 8 people work for you, it's different. Thanks to the chef. Thanks, team.
He knows that if his restaurant is to succeed, he has to keep his customers happy.
I want them to feel home. They feel like, not in a restaurant, feel like with family. So one thing I always say to customers, they say, I want to treat you like a grandma. And so this is the market, local market, when we get all our stuff, vegetable, meat, fish, and everything. So it's like you go through here, you smell chicken, you go to the other side, you smell fruits and vegetable.
Many restaurants in Essaouira now serve alcohol. That is not a path Otman plans to follow, even if it would result in greater profits.
For me, it's like, I'm satisfied for what I make. And it was my decision from the beginning. I don't want to go back for it.
As people enjoy Essaouira's varied charms, it's time for Otman to get ready for the evening service. As customers drift in, he can be found front of house and in the kitchen.
In our seasons, actually, we do like 2 service, 3 service a night. It's really good. It's like when you have a pleasure, when you have customers, and it's like you have money and you meet people. It's like it's such a good vibe.
The business plan seems to be based on giving people a good time, and it appears to be working. But Otman has no plans to rest on his laurels. He has ambitious plans to open a gallery space which will complement the restaurant. It may well be hard work, but he wouldn't have it any other way.
I love it. It's my work, what I want to do since I was a boy, to open a good place and people give compliments about it. Now I'm living the dream, yeah. And it's like this is the beginning, and I have so much things I want to do.
There's something special about you, Tony. You have a gift.
I mean, I play for a team that don't even want me. Anybody like me?
You don't get that colored boy hurt. God wants you to be a superstar.
No such thing as a black superstar.
Broncos football.
Bigger football.
Can we do this? Yes, sir. Let's go do it! We are witnessing a start.
Woodlawn. Tune to channel 481 to purchase. All the Olympic Games are here. 12 channels, 24/7. Share in their glory. Rio 2016 Olympic Games on Astro. World politics, today's issues, and all the breaking news. Wolf, Tuesday through Saturday, only on CNN. Business is always changing. Keep up with CNN Money. Maggie Lake is live in the heart of the world's economic epicenter, New York City, tracking all the action of the stock exchanges and the big business stories from around the world. Get top analysis of market movements and a daily breakdown of financial headlines. CNN Money with Maggie Lake.
You're watching CNN, and this is Connect the World. I'm Jonathan Mann. Welcome back. Now, admit it, you head to YouTube sometimes when you're bored, clicking your way through a seemingly endless stream of silly videos, cats playing the piano. But one Kenyan athlete used the site to help take himself all the way to the Olympic Games. For your parting shots, meet 27-year-old Julius Diego.
My name is Julius Diego. I am a javelin thrower from Kenya, the current world champion. I first discovered javelin through my brother, my older brother. It was not a popular sport, even in Kenya. I took it because I wanted to be a very different person. I wanted to be like the Andreas and the Theros we have in this world. I just go and type Andreas training using the YouTube. For sure, YouTube has played a big role in my success as a javelin thrower. I remember when I didn't have a coach, I really depend on watching YouTube videos. What I basically was watching was how to train as a javelin thrower, but not how to throw, because of course I knew how to throw, but not the basic of javelin training. So when I watched that, it really helped me. I improved a lot. What I love about the javelin, when you throw and then you hit it right, when it's flying in the sky, you feel so nice. You don't feel like it's coming down. It's just go, 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 go. Yeah. What drives me is to be successful in life. I want to be a legend, to leave a legacy.
Julius Diego. You can follow the stories our team is working on all through the day by going to our Facebook page, facebook.com/CNN Connect. You'll find all kinds of things, including a tour of a World War II bunker in London, now being used as an underground farm. Have a look. I'm Jonathan Mann. You've been watching Connect the World. Thanks for joining us.
You've heard the Democrats, Republicans, and Libertarians. Now meet the Green Party. Could Jill Stein and Ajamu Baraka be a fourth alternative for wary voters? Chris Cuomo hosts a live CNN Town Hall tomorrow on CNN.
Mighty Ships, Thursday nights at 9:50 on Discovery Science.
Europe's greatest players have been summoned to lead their teams into battle. Because the biggest party of 2018 is only for winners. The 2018 FIFA World Cup European qualifiers. The road to glory begins here. Watch the games live on Astro Supersport.
I'm Isa Suarez in Greece, and this is CNN.
Ahead of the International Days, Donald Trump shakes up his campaign staff. A top North Korean diplomat defects to the south, and police in Rio have questions for 2 American swimmers. Goldman Carter at the CNN Center. Thanks so much for joining me. And we begin with another campaign shake-up for Donald Trump. Time is running out, just 83 days to go until the election. And as Jessica Schneider now reports, Trump's newly minted leaders face poll numbers and a vow from their candidate to resist calls to change.
Donald Trump shaking up his campaign leadership team again for the second time in 2 months.
People want to criticize Donald Trump.
Senior advisor Kellyanne Conway confirming that she has been promoted to campaign manager, and the executive chairman of Breitbart News, Steve Bannon, is now the campaign's chief executive. The campaign's embattled chairman, Paul Manafort, will stay on despite his relationship with Trump going sour in recent weeks.
The campaign is doing really well. It's never been so well united.
Trump is very plugged in. He's very connected. The campaign's working contrary to what the media is saying.
Manafort is under investigation by Ukrainian authorities for allegedly receiving millions in illegal payments from the country's former pro-Russian ruling party. This is the second major shakeup for Trump's team. Back in June, he fired Corey Lewandowski weeks before the Republican convention.
He's a good man. We've had great success. He's a friend of mine. But I think it's time now for a different kind of a campaign.
Yeah, I had a nice conversation with Mr. Trump, and I said to him, it's been an honor and a privilege to be part of this.
The news comes as Trump tries to appeal to black voters in Wisconsin, but the audience was mostly white.
I'm asking for the vote of every African-American citizen struggling in our country today who wants a different and much better future.
Trump addressing the violent protests in Milwaukee after police shot and killed a black man Saturday.
Those peddling the narrative of cops as a racist force in our society, a narrative supported with a nod by my opponent, shared directly in the responsibility for the unrest in Milwaukee and many other places within our country.
He's placing the blame for inner-city unrest squarely on what he calls failed democratic policies.
The African-American community has been taken for granted for decades by the Democratic Party. It's time for rule by the people, not rule for the special interests. Hillary Clinton-backed policies are responsible for the problems in the inner cities today. And a vote for her is a vote for another generation of poverty, high crime, and lost opportunities.
With only 83 days until the election, Trump is digging in on his combative style in hopes of turning around his slide in the polls.
I am who I am. It's me. You have to be you. If you start pivoting, you're not being honest with people.
Well, that was Jessica Schneider reporting there. CNN political commentator, Republican consultant Margaret Hoover joins me now from New York. Hey there, Margaret. Thanks for joining us. You're a Republican. What does this shake-up tell you? What does it indicate about the state of this campaign?
Well, I'm a Republican who's worked on a presidential re-election campaign before and on another presidential effort. This kind of a 80 days out, change up everything is a sign of real distress. I mean, look, I am not a Trump supporter. I'm a Republican that believes in a different kind of Republican Party that can reach beyond its base and win national elections, which is not the model that I think we've seen in the Trump campaign. So I'm not the first to I'll be certainly objective, but not complimentary of the way Trump has done anything. And shaking up your campaign 80 days out is a sign of dire distress.
Also, what does it mean? What does it indicate about his relationship with the Republican Party and with donors? I mean, this back to basics Trump. Also, does it seem like a blatant refusal to become the candidate the party wants him to be?
Well, there's just no secret that he doesn't have a good relationship with the Republican Party, the senior elected officials in the Republican Party, or any of the Republican donor establishment. His fundraising has lagged notoriously behind. He doesn't have major fundraisers, bundlers, heavyweights in the Republican Party who are willing to call their friends and allies and network in order to help fund his campaign. And that's hurting all of the down ticket races as well. The United States Senate is up for grabs and likely will go to the Democrats if Trump loses by the kind of margins it's beginning to become clear may materialize. This is a campaign in dire distress. There are jokes in the internet that there's an acknowledgement that the Trump campaign knows they're going to lose and they've moved into the hospice phase, which is where you surround yourself with your friends and family. And Breitbart News is an organization that is not a news organization, but has been incredibly complimentary and laudatory of Trump throughout his campaign process. They've really sort of been a spokes outlet or spokespeople for Donald Trump. And so to surround himself, I think, with people who are most complimentary of his style is sort of the joke and the criticism from the right now towards Donald Trump.
So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, this veneer of some sort of nicey relationship between the party and their candidate might really be peeled back even more in the coming days. It'll be interesting to see how that unfolds, but also let's turn to the voters because they're the ones that count. Does this also mean a complete turn back to his core voters, not the persuadable swing voters? And as you were saying, what does this mean for the Republican Party trying to reach out to minorities?
Well, Trump gave a speech yesterday in Wisconsin, and he talked about the need for the Republican Party to reach out to African Americans, which is, frankly, a message I fully support. I mean, the Republican Party, Donald Trump cannot win this election if he doesn't do better than Mitt Romney did with African American voters, which was less than 10%. You simply have to build a diverse coalition in American politics in order to win. And it doesn't mean he has to win the majority of African American voters, but he needs to make good inroads. 20% would be fantastic, frankly.
Well, at the moment, I mean, I think he has less than 1% support among African American voters.
That's right. And, there are problems. You can't just give a speech to an all-white audience in a part of the country that only has 1% African American voters and then speak obtusely, sort of suggesting, and what he said directly is that African American poverty is because of Hillary Clinton and the policies she supported. You've got to do more than just oblique and sort of obtuse references to your opponent. You have to make a credible case that you're going to be better. Again, it's a step in the right direction. It's only a first step, but there's got to be more than just rhetoric. There's got to be, frankly, the NAACP has invited him to speak, and he hasn't done it. There are many venues and forums that would suggest real authenticity and sincerity behind the rhetoric that frankly, many Republicans would welcome, even if we don't support Donald Trump.
Yeah, we talk about timing. I mean, 3 months to the elections, but early voting is, the next few weeks, and that is also a huge deadline looming. Margaret Hoover, thanks so much for joining us.
Appreciate being on.
Well, it is really a big day at the Olympic Games with a lot of action going on, but an investigation is casting a shadow over the competition. Just hours ago, police in Rio trudged into the Olympic Village looking for 2 American swimmers. A judge is investigating a claim they were robbed at gunpoint. Let's talk about this with Nick Payton-Walsh and Amanda Davis, who are both in Rio. Nick, to you first. So, what's going on here? Are Rio authorities questioning the US swimmers' version of events?
They're asking a lot of questions about it, and this is an extraordinary move by a Rio judge to ask for search and seizure warrants for Ryan Lochte and James Fegan, 2 of the 4 swimmers who said they were robbed in the early hours of Sunday morning. Now, they want their passports, which could have potentially meant they couldn't leave the country. Mr. Lochte just actually got an email from his lawyer, is back in the United States, left as planned. He says he cooperated with anybody who asked him any questions after the robbery and would give further assistance if he'd been asked, but he hasn't been asked. The question is really being asked now, what happened in the early hours of that morning? Now, the original story from Mr. Lochte was they left the nightclub in the early hours. They were held at gunpoint by men dressed as police, had some valuables taken off them, and then left. But slowly people have begun to ask questions about that because the men admitted themselves, well, we left with our cell phones. That's odd, some Brazilians have thought, because they're often the main target of such armed robberies. And then there's been a CCTV video emerging in the media early this morning, which seems to show them arriving fairly relaxed back at the Olympic Village, still with a lot of high-value items on their person, which you'd think an armed robber would be after. Now we have this extraordinary move from the Rio court, which says it was prompted by inconsistencies in the statements of Mr. Lochte and Mr. Fegan. Now, they both talked to police, as Mr. Lochte's lawyer has confirmed to us, and it appears that the judge's suspicions were aroused by the fact they didn't seem to agree how many of the robbers were armed, whether they were taken by surprise or not. There's a lot of politics involved here, because it's been one of the most high-profile robberies, frankly, here at all. So some may argue Brazilian officials are keen to cast doubt on the story because they don't want the idea of people in uniform here not actually being trustworthy, that maybe it's possible to think your existence as an armed policeman and rob somebody. At the same time, too, there are Brazilian doubts about how they managed to escape from this with so many valuables. It seems on their person. No suggestion at this stage anyone's done anything wrong, but questions still being asked to clarify this version of events, and now it appears Brazilian magistrates taking steps to try and get that kind of evidence. We're hearing from a police spokesperson this isn't something that happens on a routine procedure. It is because of what they think may be missing bits of evidence or information. I should say again though, Mr. Lockheed's lawyer, very clear he's cooperated whenever asked. Robert.
Okay, thanks so much for unpacking all of that. Fascinating. Thanks so much for keeping watch there in Rio. Let's stick with Rio and the sports, though. Amanda Davis, to you. Interestingly, also, all eyes today have been on the 800-meter women's heat, and that's not even a final.
No, exactly. It's very rare that there's so much focus on the early morning sessions of the athletics. As you said, generally the heats, the early stages of the events. But this morning, Caster Semenya of South Africa, the silver medalist at London 2012 in the 800 meters, has been in action for the first time. So much debate surrounding her participation at this games because the 25-year-old has a condition known as hypoandrogenism, which means that she has a higher than normal levels of testosterone in her body for a woman. You may remember that just a few years ago she was actually banned from competing. Then she was ordered by athletics governing body to take some extra hormones to try and negate the impact of the testosterone. And then last year, dramatically, the Court of Arbitration for Sport ruled that there is just not enough